Okay, this is the final part for Chapter 16 on other punctuation. And in this part, excuse me, we're going to talk about quotation marks using double and single ones and place other punctuation in relation to the quotation marks. And then we're going to talk about using italics, brackets, and apostrophes appropriately. Okay, so we use quotation marks for a few different things. One of them is to enclose direct quotations. And you only use them if you are typing the exact words of the writer or speaker. Um, when you're using quotation marks, only use them when you have a valid reason to do so. Otherwise, your writing's going to look sloppy and confusing. Uh, Here we have an example. Jack Welch said, "I've learned that mistakes can often be as good a teacher as success." Well, Jack Welch, these are his words he actually said, so we use quotes around them. Okay, then we have on the first of the month, remarked Mrs. Simmons. So this is Mrs. Simmons' quote. And we've interrupted it here with remarked Mrs. Simmons, so we need to close quote here. And then we continue our quote over here. And notice we didn't capitalize we because it's still a part of this quote up here. We use them to enclose short expressions. Some slang or jargon words are used in a special sense for humor or irony, or words following stamped, like I stamped something paid or whatever, or it's marked paid in full. If it's following these two words, and there are a few others, you enclose it within quotation marks. But we want to be careful not to overuse quotation marks in this way. Okay, slang. We thought the haircut was hot. Now, we're not using this in the literal term. It's being used as descriptive, so we're going to enclose it in quotes to let someone know that we're not talking about their haircut was really actually hot. Okay, words used in a special sense. The mechanic had to bleed the brake. Well, bleed, it's not talking about blood coming out of the brakes. Bleed's just a word or terminology they use in that line of work to take all the stuff out of the brake lines. So we're going to enclose that in quotes. And words following stamped or marked. Okay, your letter is stamped confidential. So this is kind of like telling you what is actually on the stamp. So we enclose that in quotes. Like I say, it could be stamped paid, or there's all kinds of things. But if it follows this word stamped, you need to put it in quotes. Okay, we also use quotes to enclose definitions of words or expressions. The word being defined should be italicized or underlined. And most of the time you're going to use, on the keyboard you have italics tools. If you don't have this capability, then you should underline it. Like if you're using a typewriter, which I don't know anybody who does that anymore, but most word processors have the capability of italicizing. Okay, the word liability. So this is the word that's being defined. So we're going to italicize it. And then the definition is enclosed in quotes. Okay, so the word being defined should be italicized or underlined, and you use quote marks to enclose the definitions of the words. So this is to let them know this is the word that's being defined. Okay, we also use them to enclose titles of subdivisions of literary and published works, such as magazines, newspaper articles, short stories, books, chapters, television episodes, poems, paintings, sculptures, and songs. What a pretty picture. Over the Rainbow. So Over the Rainbow was a song, the name of a song that was performed in the movie The Wizard of Oz. So Wizard of Oz is italicized because it's telling what it was performed in, and then Over the Rainbow was in quotes because it's the name of the song. Our favorite link at monster.com is Career Tips. Okay, Career Tips is the name of the link, but it's inside of monster.com, so we italicize monster.com and enclose this in quotes. She wrote a chapter called Effective Email Techniques in the book Writing That Works. So this is the name of the book, and this is the chapter that's inside of it, so we can close it in quotes. And this is italicized. Okay, also we need to talk about punctuating around quotation marks. Periods and commas are always placed inside quotation marks. A little trivia here. This was American style that stems from the days of hot type. Periods and commas tended to break off. So if you can picture the old presses where they actually put the lead letters and symbols and everything on these little tracks, if they put the period or the comma outside of that, it was so small that it would get knocked off. So if they kept it inside of a quote, that kind of helped it to stay on, not get knocked off. This practice continued in the United States, but not in Britain. So there's a few differences between British English and American English and grammar, and this is one of them. Okay, I enjoyed very much. Notice that the comma is inside the quote. Mr. Dornan, your article entitled Economics Recession. Notice we've used the single quote inside of the quote. So, and here's the end quote. So when you have an opening quote, you should have an end quote, an opening parentheses, and a closing parentheses. Okay, colons and semicolons are always placed outside of quotation marks for the same reason I was talking about earlier, that they were bigger so they didn't get knocked off as easy. Our supervisor said we are eliminating all overtime this month. Here's our colon out or semicolon outside the quote marks. Therefore, employees must be informed. Okay, quotation marks and exclamation points may go inside or outside closing quotation marks depending on the quotation. Professor Dooley said, how many things have been completed? How many have completed the assignment? Let's see if I can read that. Now this question mark is part of the quote, so it should go inside the quote marks. Okay, this is the other way. Do you know who first used the expression the almighty dollar? The sentence asks the question, not the quote, so the question mark goes on the outside. And in the instance where both sentence and quotation ask questions, why did Mr. Simpson say who used the copier last? The question mark is going to go inside the quote. Or the parentheses. Or the, I'm sorry, the quotes. Okay, we're going to talk about italics next. And we use italics for titles of books and so on, like we talked about earlier. Okay, so here's a name of a work here, American at Work, and then the Wall Street Journal is the name of a paper. Okay, and then brackets. You use these within to use remarks. You use brackets to enclose your own words inside of a quote. It could be several things. Um, Sometimes if the original work you're quoting has a mistake in it, you might see SIC enclosed in brackets, letting the person know, the reader know that that mistake was in the original. Um, Other things, might explain things inside those brackets. So here's an example, our current budget deficit. And then in the bracket, this wasn't in the original quote, but you're adding it just for information. You would put that in a bracket. With SIC, SIC, which means thus or so. When I was telling you this a little bit ago, they actually appear in the quoted matter that way. Then, for instance, in this one, they're quoting Dr. Sims, and irregardless is not a word. You never use that. It's always regardless. So they're letting you know that that was in the original work. It wasn't the person writing this sentence that made the mistake. Okay, and then the apostrophe. We've used this before for in some of the other chapters, but for one is to form noun possessives. So Steve Jobs goal. So there's one Steve Job, so we use an apostrophe S. That's a singular possessive. This is a plural possessive. There's more than one doctor because there's offices here. So we use the plural possessive with the apostrophe. We use them to form contractions. Your is a contraction for you are, so we use apostrophe there. It's is a contraction for it is, not the possessive pronoun it's, so we use the apostrophe there. And also they are used to take the place of omitted letters or figures. He stops by Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin', this is taking the place of G. Right here, this is taking the place of the Century 2013, so we're just putting the apostrophe there. And it serves as a symbol for feet. At 6 foot, so here's our apostrophe. And then our quote over here at the end serves as inches. Okay, let's play with this a little bit. Did John complete his BA degree before taking a job with Quadcom Inc.? Okay, what kind of punctuation do we need here? Well, are we asking a question? Yes, we are. Also, make a note that this does not have periods after it. So we don't use in the degrees, we just put the letters, we don't put periods after them. Oh, and the other thing I missed was you put your period showing the end of the abbreviation at the end, and then your question mark. Okay, the Clintons' vacation begins next week. Do we need to change anything here? Well, let's see, there's more than one Clinton, so we may want to move the apostrophe over here. And how about the period? Is that correct? Yes, it is. So we just needed to change that possessive. Okay, we're going to emphasize the committee favored 3 cities, Scottsdale, Tucson, and Phoenix, but could not reach the final decision. Okay, since we're emphasizing, we're probably going to want to put the dash in here. Not here, I'm sorry. Here. Scottsdale, Tucson, and Phoenix, but could not reach the final decision. What do you think? Okay, that's it. So we want to put that dash in here because we want to emphasize these cities, draw attention to them. Okay, Palm